Said, I have one final question. Okay, come with that, Jonathan. Why is it so cheap?
Let's begin by saying hi to all our 40 viewers. I think that's about the number of people watching this show as of today, the 2nd of October, as we're recording this. So yeah, welcome.
Anyway, we were discussing a topic about project estimation.
Yeah.
Before it all went down. And perhaps we could pick up that again.
Yeah, I took some notes from the conversation so we can use that in this one. We started out with talking about the meeting with the customer, and we need to kind of get the conversation going with the customer in order to do an estimation. We need to know how large the project is. We would like to know how much money the customer has to spend on this project.
Well, I think, that we have to make a distinction here then between estimating a project and determining how much it should cost, because it's not necessarily the same. To me, estimation is about trying to break down the project in its various subcomponents and try to find out how large this is and how many hours are we going to spend on doing this project. Then what we charge the customer could of course be proportional to the number of hours that we spend, but there are other considerations you could take, such as how much is this worth for the customer.
Yeah.
But that's also difficult to discipline, actually, to find out of that.
When you have a meeting with the customer, you not only want to find out what the project is about, you also want to at least get a ballpark on what kind of money are they intending to spend on this project. Because if they are going to spend 500 and they want a web page or a application, that's not going to get them far. If they have 5 million and want to make a small system that takes about 50 to 100 hours to make, then we can do something really great for them, far below their estimated budget.
You know what? I once made an estimation to a customer. It was about 3 million. That would be equivalent to how much would that be? 400,000 euros, something like that. Okay. And he had a lot of questions. And then in the end, he said, I have one final question. Okay, come with that, Jonathan. Why is it so cheap? What the hell do you answer to that kind of question?
Yeah, exactly.
The problem here is that there are so many factors. There are the expectations that you have, or the customer may have. Then there is the business value for the customer. Will this actually make sense to do it if with a given price?
Yeah.
Then there's a very, very, very important factor, which is how bad do you want a project?
Yeah.
Are you hungry or not? I mean, and what's the competition?
Yeah, exactly.
And all these factors, which in the end determine the price, but the estimation, then that would be your bottom line. How much should you at least charge so to cover your expenses?
Yeah.
And the salary for the involved programmers and so on. And that is difficult enough. Set aside all the other considerations, I would say.
So that's where we want to start, to figure out how much time do we actually need to spend to complete the project.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how would you go about doing that?
Well, well, it would depend on the project. I mean, we've had some project which was porting from one version of Datafix to another one. or
Yeah.
typically from DOS to Windows, from DOS to web. And although that has its problems, it's conceptually very easy. I mean, it's a matter of how many lines of code do you have in the old project, you know, and how much does it time, how much time does it take to, in average, to convert one line of code to from one version to another one, and you just multiply with that number of minutes or whatever seconds or whatever you have here. But then there's all the things that can go wrong. You just have to think about that. And all the meetings and all the waiting time and all the stuff, you know. So you have to add up something. And again, that's also a question of what is fair, what is reasonable. Usually I add 15%. I don't know why, actually. I think that's just, you know, that's where I've ended during a lot of projects now. I've ended up on 15%, but it could have been 25 maybe. I don't know if that's more realistic, but 50% is certainly too much, unless of course it's a small project. And well, yeah, you never know.
I think I'm a bit optimistic when I estimate, so I have to multiply by pi.
Yeah, but I think pi is too small. I think it's not large enough. You should multiply it by at least 5.
Oh, but at least that's 300%, not 15%.
But no, you misunderstand me. First I add the 15% and then I multiply by 5.
Okay. Yeah. By 5.
Oh, maybe not, but well, it depends. No, I think no. Realistically, 2 or 3.
Yeah.
It's yeah. You're always too optimistic somehow. I think.
Yeah. I used to think about it like this, that I have the amount of development I can see in front of me. And then when I start to develop and complete the project, I realize that there are all these fine details and all things that should fix that I haven't overseen. So there's twice as much work in that. And then you have all the administrative work for making phone calls, writing emails, asking questions about things you don't know. And then you also need a surplus, so 3.14.
Yeah, well, you know, the funny thing is that when you're doing agile projects, it's of course even more difficult, because then you don't really have a specification, you just have a outline on what you're going to make. And I think that everybody has the experience that the result in the end is better, because the customer gets what they really want and not what they imagined that they wanted when you were making the specification. But of course, it's difficult to give a price when you don't know what the end outcome is. So sometimes, or many times, the customer asks for a rough estimate. You know, roughly where are we? You know. So you say where you are roughly. Then usually the answer is, oh, that's expensive. Or they actually think, okay, that's the price. You know. We have to say, no, it's a rough estimate.
Yeah, it can be far below, it can be far more.
Yeah. So, of course, it's also a question, what is actually, how does the customer perceive the deliverables, what they're actually getting? Are they happy with what they're getting? And then are you developing fast enough? You know, is the progress fast enough in the project and all that kind of stuff? You know, I mean, if you take your car down to the repair shop, you know, and you walk away, and then after 4 hours they call you and you get this huge bill, you know, and that's like, what? Of course, if you stay with them and look what they're actually doing, you know, maybe you can understand, okay, this is going to cost me some, you know, because they're taking it totally apart or whatever, you know, happened here. So it's I think it's also a matter of transparency. But then again,
if you look at IT projects, you can have something that looks really hard and complex and will change the entire system. It only takes half an hour because you need to kind of configure something. And then you have something easy, like you have to change a certain text code, but that text code is dependent on something that is part of some translation thing. And then you have to kind of update on 10 different places. So that ends up being much more expensive. So you have those very different aspects as well, what the perceived value is and what the actual time you have to spend to solve that.
So what if you come up with a price, and you say, okay, this is going to take 2 months to develop this project, and we'll be working for you guys, full time for 2 months.
Yeah.
Then after 1 month, you're finished.
Yeah.
What do? You still charge the customer the same, or what? Or do you wait a month before you deliver it? What do you do here?
No, yeah, I would definitely deliver directly, because the faster I can deliver, the faster I can get feedback on what I've done, so we can get things moving. But yeah, I see what you're coming from. If that's kind of the issue with hourly billing, you want to spend as much time as possible because then you get more more billing.
Yeah, but you see, the problem is here that there's a huge advantage with hourly billing, which is you don't have any risk. You don't have the risk that you come up with a price and then the project accuracy is twice as big as you thought, and you're losing money on it.
Yeah.
You don't lose anything. But the problem is that if you give a price, or you suggest a price for the project, and you do in half time, then you make a lot of money that way. But then you also have the risk, because it might have taken twice as much.
But then you should charge for the risk as well. If you take the risk, then you should charge more. So you can say to the customer, I will do this, I will solve this for this amount of money, but I take the risk. If something goes completely wrong, I will still make sure you get the product, even though you won't pay more. But the hourly thing is that, okay, I think it's going to take this amount of time, but you pay me by the hour, so any amount of time you will pay for. So you have the risk.
I remember once, quite a lot of years ago, where we were doing a relatively small task for a customer. So we asked, do you want a fixed price, or do you want it done by the hour? And they said, fixed price, please. So we were sort of estimating, and the euro wasn't invented at that time, but it was equivalent to about 10,000 euro, the project.
Yeah.
And the customer said, okay, thank you, go ahead. Then we got an idea.
Okay.
And it took about 4 or 5 hours, and then we were done,
Ah.
And then you feel good, wow. It's one of those very rare occasions, I would say, because normally I'd say, where the place we are in this business, what we make, you could describe it as hard-earned cash. We're not given any freebies.
No. But then you have the risk, the problematic features and the easy features to deal with, because some of the things exactly what you need to do. You have like a plan for, okay, I need to add this and this and this, and I want this in the database and stuff like that. And then you have these additional features where you are embarking on a new technology that you haven't used before, or you need to integrate with a system you don't know anything about, or something like that.
The first thing you have to find out is, well, basically, can you do that? Actually, if you have some kind of problem that you have to solve, And you always know. I don't think that you're ever in doubt where the pitfalls are. I mean, you can feel it, you know it immediately. Here be dragons, and that's where you should try to find out at first, can I do this?
Before
can
you
we
even,
do this?
Before you even start to estimate or spend any time on it, try to figure out, are there a solution for this?
Yeah, make some sort of feasibility study.
Yeah.
I've made a lot of low-level computer-to-computer communication.
Mm-hmm.
In various ways. I know this is a very narrow sort of problem, but still, in the beginning, it's a matter of combining two computers with a cable, and trying to find, can I get some signals passing from this to that, does it at all work, and when you found that out, you can be confident, because then you can always model your way through the project, as long as you know that it can be done.
Yeah. So, you think we got everything about estimation?
No, not at all. Not at all. Every time you estimate, every time you get apply something new pops up, But of course, the more you try, I mean, nothing beats experience in this thing here. And it's too bad, actually, because I remember from university training, they tried very hard, and people are still trying very hard to make programming a so-called engineering discipline.
Yeah.
And when engineering discipline, if you're going to make a bridge, you try to find out, you find out what kind of bridge, and that would be determined between the gap of the two endpoints and various other factors, so you find out, and every meter of that kind of bridge, which should be designed for carrying lorries of this weight, all that. So you need so much concrete, and you can always look it up in a table, in a book, and says, it's going to cost you that much. But you can't do that with programming. Partly also because of the programmers all conceive themselves as artists, A computer program is a work of art, and how the hell do you set a price on that?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think one of the conclusions is you have to try very hard every time.
Yeah, and use your gut.
And use your gut feeling,
Yeah. If you feel confident that you can pull it off, then you're probably on the right track. If it feels like there's a tight timeline, then you should probably add a few hours here and there.
In a way, it's very sad that this is our level of competence, but I think that everybody else is at the same level when it comes to point.
Yeah, then it's, of course, it always depends on what type of project you're working on. If there's something standardized that you have done before and more or less have to implement, that's easier to estimate than something completely new.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. But that was a good chat, and let's hope our audience want to join in and write some comments down below, or like and share the videos. So we can see you next week, and probably have a new topic to talk about.
Hope so.
Yeah. So see you then. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.